All right, everybody, welcome to the Gilder Spotlight podcast. I am exceptionally excited for today's guest. His name is David Adeleke. He is from Nigeria. He actually has the CreditKarma of Africa called Zeeh Africa. But we can go dive into that later. But David, before we kind of get into more business conversation, I'd love for you to give a background of yourself, where you're calling out of, and yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Like you said, I'm David Adeleke, and first of all, I'm actually very excited to be here right now. So, okay, by profession, I study civil engineering, so I'm an engineer by profession, right? But over time, right, I've evolved to be a multi-founder, a serial entrepreneur, and then I started business, right? I was pretty much little when I was still in the university. So, what are my goals, right? One of the major things I look forward to doing on a larger scale, which I'm doing already, has to do with helping more people experience financial well-being, and it's in line with one of XDG Goal 9 of no poverty. And we've seen Africa as a case study which such situation dwells more. So currently as the CEO of Zeeh Africa, which we'll get into that later on, right? Um, we are leveraging technology, business acumen, experience, everything to drive that goal, which is still financial inclusion, in a bid to improve the standard of living of people. So these are, I see it, I call it unseen motivation that drives me. Because I get a lot of people ask me, oh, what
Mhm,
keeps driving you? What keeps you pushing you to work
mhm.
hard and do what you do? So yeah, that's like a baseline of what it is. So let me just put a pause there to that little introduction about me. Then also I'm married recently, so
Very
I
cool.
have a very
Hey,
beautiful wife
congrats.
a very good support
Cool.
system. Just got married December last year. So yeah, that's like a brief summary about myself.
The last thing that I heard is that you just got married. So congrats on that.
All right,
That
thank
must
you
have been
very much.
a fantastic ceremony and everything. And it
It
sounds like
was,
you have, yeah, you're getting your life is like all coming together in amazing
uh
flow.
yeah.
But yeah, so one thing that I'm really interested in, I'm curious about, for me personally, I studied abroad in South Africa,
Oh,
and which I went to University of Cape Town I lived there for about a year, and some of the most amazing, bright, most intelligent people that I met were actually from Nigeria, and a lot of the Nigerians were engineers. So, what inspired you to get into civil engineering? Because that is a little bit different than fintech and business. And what was it like growing up in Nigeria?
good. So I was like growing up for me. So I would say I don't have over time I've learned to not call it not so good anymore because those experiences that I went through was actually what has shaped me. Those are what makes my core belief, and those are what has made me the man who I am. Right. So it was. I grew up in. I won't call it middle class. Let's call it a very lower class. Right.
Hmm.
Attended one of the public school in my area. Um, I don't know if when we say public school, that's like a very low grade school, right? And but one of the major things that I noticed about myself was I had a strong belief that um, if it could be done, it's possible. Like I kept my hopes very high. So it was with that high hopes that made me apply to study at the best. It's actually the best university, and it's one of the hardest to
Wow.
get into in Nigeria, University of Ibadan.
Wow.
Not just even getting to the school. Okay. I came in into UI studying geology. So then I was not really clear about what I wanted to do, as the case were.
Hmm.
But I knew that okay, I wanted to attend one of the best. I want to meet with the best people and do awesome stuff. And at that point, the best place to have gone to was University of Ibadan. So it was a very very tough ride because I had to write the exams even before when I was ready for the exam. So you write your GC, your WAEC at XS3, but I wrote my own at SS2. That's a year before graduation, and I passed it and got admitted. So when I got into UI, right, um,
Hmm.
I was studying geology and I couldn't find a clear path to what I'll be doing with geology. So that
Hmm.
led me to speak to a course advisor. Then, actually, I think what made me, this is the first time or second time I should be saying this out, is the fact that I did not
Hmm.
feel challenged in in studying geology. When we got to school, they were like the bright people, the smart people. They are studying engineering,
Hmm.
medicine, law. I'm like, no, I felt left out. So I
Right,
had to
right.
just go to study engineering. I'm switching to engineering, so I switched to engineering. Then I chose civil engineering because of the my love for building stuff. So I love the fact that you can, from nothing, build something massive. That was what made me choose civil engineering. So I finished in UI, studied civil engineering. Um, so how did that even take me into the business sphere, right? So
Hmm.
right from school, things were also good for me while I was in school. So one of the major things I did to myself was to help myself by doing business to make money, to pay school
Hmm.
fees. Um, yeah, I got
Well,
into a couple of scholarships
nice.
after my first year. So that was some steady flow of income that actually sustained myself and my elder brother throughout our stay in the university. He also was a smart guy. He also on scholarship, right?
Hmm.
So that's that. Um, then that was what actually led to the birth of the first company I ran, which is still currently running, which is Daxlins Global. So I don't know. Do you want me to jump right into it, or I should put a pause yet?
Well, I have a couple of questions just based off what you're telling me. You said that
Okay. Yeah,
as
please
you
go ahead.
were obviously geology was too easy for you, so you wanted to switch to civil engineering, which is no small feat.
Yeah.
My grandfather's a civil engineer, and he's one of the most brilliant
Oh.
people that I know in Japan.
Okay.
And understanding how to engineering like minds think very logical on how to build things, but it's
Yes.
hard to find that entrepreneurial acumen. And it seems like when you were studying, you said that you also were obviously you got scholarships, but you started doing other entrepreneurial endeavors. Was
Yes.
that the first time that you started getting into business and entrepreneurship? Was during your undergrad getting your civil engineering degree, or were you younger and did you get into entrepreneurial endeavors then, or when did you
Okay.
start getting into entrepreneurship?
Okay. So I was pretty much very young when I got into university
Hmm.
at the age of 15.
Wow,
So, so I was 15 turning into 16 when I got into
wow.
university, right? So I think I was still that was still the early days of me being my own person, right? Going out, I mean,
Hmm.
leaving the old parent confinement and start living life for yourself, right? So it
Hmm.
was, I think it was still during that period I ventured straight into entrepreneurship. And the fun fact of it is, one of myself and a friend that we started back then, I would say we gambled. We invested our school fees in one of the first business we ever did, and it
Hmm.
went. We lost all our school fees. Like, it
Uh,
was a very crazy moment for us. Like,
hmm.
um, so, but then I did not let that to affect me. So I don't let that affect me. So we still kept on. I found way to like borrow money from my brother, get ensure I sort out school. So while still studying, right, I kept up the entrepreneurial spirit. So I started business there. So I think one of the
Hmm.
first business I started was one good thing about me is I know how to identify problem. Then instead of just
Hmm.
complaining about the problem, I prefer solutions to the problem. So the first
Hmm.
business enterprise I did when I got into UI was the fact that we had this practical that we do, and one of the major things that is needed for people should be lab coats, Google
Hmm.
glasses, hand glove, and all students in campus, most of them don't have it. So what did I do? I went out of campus. I went to outsource it to them. Oh, if you give me
Hmm.
this at a discounted rate, when I sell it, I'll bring your money back. And that was
Hmm.
immediately how I started. I bought a load of it, took it into school, made it a little
Wow.
bit cheaper than what they will see in the general market. Then I made a lot of profit. I mean, that was part of where I
Wow.
started gathering my first set of capital. that I added my school fees to and blew. So I think that still trails back to the first entrepreneurship act I did. Then from there, I started evolving and growing. So that led me to starting one of my first business, right?
Mhm.
So how did that business start? It's called Dax Links.
Mhm.
So I got one of the scholarship, which was 200,000 naira at that time. But then I already got a lot of other money. I already sorted out my expenses, my feedings. So the money
Mhm.
came in. It was like a free money. I was like, okay, what will I do with this money? There's nothing. I don't want to spend it. So I
Mhm.
spoke with a friend, that my friend, the partner, right? So we spoke with his mom, who is a trader in one of the markets. She's like a known trader. So we told her that, Ma, if you give us 20, no, 10 people, right? We want
Mhm.
to give them 20,000 naira each. Then they'll be paying us back every week with interest.
Mhm.
So I took the 200,000 naira. I started that. I gave it to the woman. She helped me and pick people she trusted in the market. We gave them 20,000 naira each to augment their cash flow in business, and they were paying back
Wow.
interest. Then I started reinvesting the money, added more people into the chain of people that we're reaching out to, till I grew the money from 200,000 to a 1.4 million naira.
Wow.
That was when I now said, okay, now I
Mhm.
already had a large number of client base that we're managing, and now we employed the first person that was working with me to assist with the whole accounting, cash flow, balancing, and I was still running
Wow.
school at that moment. That was, I think, around my 200, I had my
Well,
200 level. Okay, let me go over to you.
very, very cool. And so it sounds like it looks like yeah, you started Dax Links right when you
Yes,
started around the time that you started university. And so
yes, that's correct.
even after you graduated, you just went went full on into Dax Links,
Yes, that's
or
correct.
did you have any? Because it looks like pretty much outside of university, how were you able to basically understand the business framework and like the business building blocks without, because you didn't study business, obviously you studied engineering, you studied something
Yes.
that's more tangible, but
Okay.
with all the accounting flow, the hiring someone,
Yeah.
understanding how to build up your network, it seems like your grandmother helped you a lot with that as well, but how did you start getting those building blocks on that business foundation?
Okay, so one of the major things that helped me, even up to now, is um, I'm good at carrying out researches, and I
Hmm.
prioritize knowledge. I put in a lot of work in gathering knowledge. So I'm a CFA level one candidate already,
Hmm.
as we speak right now.
Wow.
AFM, that's Advanced Financial Modeler. I took the exam, prepared for it, became a financial modeler. Then business management, mini MBA. So what I'm trying to say
Wow.
is, while I was still studying for my engineering, and I think I was at 300, 400 level. That was when I made up my mind that, okay, yeah, I think I found my calling and I found purpose, right,
Hmm.
which is business. So I did not let my school job, I did not get affected with my school work. So I
Hmm.
started looking for, okay, what are the professional courses I can take. So I can't even remember a lot. If I go back to my certificate and I bring out
Hmm.
the number of certification courses, online courses I've taken, it's a whole lot. I've done in Quantic Business School.
Hmm.
I started with Coursera. So
Hmm.
I put in the work actually in learning over time of every night. One of the major things I did to myself back then was, if I had probably a last cash and I had the
Hmm.
option of using that money to eat or to buy data to learn, I would actually use the money to buy data so I could have access to the internet to learn more
Wow.
than to go and eat. So I invested both
Wow.
my time, my energy, my resources in learning, in building myself. So I wouldn't say that I just stumbled on doing big things. I
Hmm.
grew up the ladder, and I put in the work actually. So yeah,
Right.
so that's the way I was able to like gather those acumen and those prowess in the business field. And then one thing I did also was I was not scared to take risks. So I was
Hmm.
all out while learning. I was practicalizing what I was learning instantly. So the way they are
Wow.
teaching, the way I was learning it, I was putting it into practice, into business. When I'm trying to, there was a stage where, so that was a milestone, right? 1.4 million was a milestone for Dax
Mhm.
Links, right? So I was like, we were doing fine, we were already making good profit, which was profitable. Then I was like, okay, there's more. How do we expand? That was when I
Mhm.
had to now slow take a break, go and research what does it take to like build a company. That was when I now go and register the company. So while we were running it at first, it was a non-registered, it was just like a business
Mhm.
or someone just doing business, right? So then I learned
Right.
the corporate affairs to business, started implementing it while learning on the go. So that's
Wow.
basically how I did that.
So it seems like you're balancing out getting your civil engineering degree. You're
Yeah,
basically getting all these certificates in business, like kind of like
yeah,
a mini MBA, while
yeah,
also running Dax Links, and it looks like you're still running it.
yeah.
What did an average day look like for you during this time, and what did an average week look like? How did you fit everything in your schedule?
So I could pretty much, funny enough, I still have hobbies, which is I love traveling, so I still spend
Hmm.
time traveling. That's one. Two, I love music. So, in as much as my schedule were very, very tight, because either I'm learning something or I'm working on the business, as that's where we started employing
Hmm.
staff, I'm training. So, one thing I also did with my staff is I went to pick people that, one thing I checked out for is are they hungry? Are they passionate to work? They don't
Hmm.
need to have the experience. I train them. So most of them they agree with me. So I was investing also in people, right?
Hmm.
So if I'm not doing that, like I said, I love music. So then I'll be playing. I can play the bass guitar. I can play drum sets. I
Wow.
can play the keyboard also. So those are things I do during time that I'm not working or I'm not reading for exam. So my
Hmm.
average even up till now, it's still the same thing. Like, I don't think there is literally any kind of spare time that I have, right? I've
Hmm.
learned to be able to like time myself, manage myself properly. Okay, whatever time is allocated for this, I try to like meet up to that time. Then I mean, I've gotten married, so one of the major advantage of it is they are making me sleep well now. So, but
Hmm.
back then, I was sleeping averagely 2 hours to 4 hours the whole day. So I'm always awake
Wow.
at night, learning, doing
Hmm.
something, right? So with that, so one of the major things is I just try to like give myself more time at night. I don't sleep at night. So 2 hours, 4 hours, I'm done sleeping. I'm back to work.
Hmm.
So because there was actually a lot of things to do. So that's things. Zeeh Africa, those are just one face of the business. There are actually other faces of businesses I ventured or that I'm still running at the
Wow.
moment. So I still call myself a farmer because I currently have farm operations in
Right.
Kano, Kebbi, and
Wow.
Calabar, wherein we are cultivating rice in over
Very
50
cool.
hectares of land space, partnering with the top
Wow.
guys in Nigeria. What am I saying? In West Africa as we speak. So
Hmm.
yeah, so that one was birthed through my love for traveling. So I traveled to the north, and I was like, okay, what can we do here? Then I ventured
Hmm.
into farming and into the agri
Wow.
business. Yeah, so let me pause there again.
Yeah, that's a very eclectic background from farming to you can play three different instruments. You pretty much know finance and you know engineering. So it's like you're a jack of all trades.
Yeah.
What type of advice would you give someone that, for example, like they're like, all right, I'm super tired. I have all this stress on me. Work's really difficult. Because it seems like for you, you perceive every little bit of thing that you do as something that'll benefit you, right? Like the music that's going to help you clear your mind, be more comfortable.
Yeah,
The farming that
exactly.
helps you network, build businesses, make money. You're helping people with finances, with investments. What type of advice would you give someone that's kind of just in that, you know, that needs that little bump or that nudge?
So, the kind of advice I would use my personal experience, right? So, one of the major things that kept me going is for every venture I try to do, right? Before I even start, I think of the bigger picture. I think of
Mm.
how far can I go? Like, what's the highest level I can get to with it. So I have to like
Hmm.
I digest it. So it's an advice I
Hmm.
give to people. I mean, I mentor a couple of people. So I'm like, you say you want to do this business, right? Or you are doing this, right? What's the greatest place you can get to? So that's going to
Hmm.
be your picture so that, because yeah, there are actually a lot of times where I got tired. I was like, no, I'm not doing
Hmm.
again. I just want to like wake up, sleep, and I mean, I don't want to
Hmm.
do again. But then
Right.
those pictures that are already digested, like, okay, oh, this is where I want to go to. Am I there yet? No, I'm not there. So that re-energized me to get started, right? That's one. Then also, then particularly actually for the finance part of it, the financial inclusion part of it, right? Um, it's something I get to see almost every day. The standard of living, especially in Nigeria, right? And I'm like, oh, David, you can do a little more better than this for these people.
Hmm.
Like you can put in more work. So that's also another unseen motivation that drives me, right? So for people
Hmm.
that are getting tired, I think they should not be afraid to take a break. It's very important.
Hmm.
They can take that break more like a retreat, right? Then go back to the drawing board wherein you started from, like what gave you that picture, what gave you the motive, the purpose to start in the first place. Go and redigest
Hmm.
it again, like refuel yourself to now kickstart again, but take a break so you don't break down, right?
Hmm.
Then during that period, use it as a retreat, rest, then redigest, reorientate yourself on reasons why you were doing it in the first place, and then fire on again. So that's one of the method I use, and it works very well for me.
Very cool. Do you have any like secrets in your productivity? Like, do you meditate? Do you have any? For me, I'd like to take lion's mane and ashwagandha and agarikon, like different things in my coffee. Like, do you have anything that you do when you get up
Okay,
to make sure that you're optimal all the time?
okay, so one thing I do is I take coffee also, yeah, a lot
Nice.
actually. Uh, so that's one. Then also
Hmm.
the second thing I do is I travel. I don't know, it works for
Mm.
me. So
Where?
I can sorry.
Oh, where do you travel to? What are your favorite places to
So,
travel?
so currently now, we have 36 states in Nigeria. I've been to
Hmm.
27 of them already um,
Wow.
in Nigeria. So I don't know how it works, but then whenever my head is clumped, like whenever everything looks so blurry and I can't concentrate, I just go either I drive or I just probably charter a car, right? And I just
Mm-hmm.
go straight on the road, like long hours drive, just thinking about everything, keep my mind open, right? It helps me. By the time I get to my destination, I'll feel
Hmm.
tired, I'll sleep a bit, and by the time I'm waking up, taking a shower, I'm ready to like continue grinding. That's one.
Wow.
Then two also is I meditate. So I have
Mm-hmm.
a couple of playlists that I picked from here and there from different places. Plug it to my headset. In my quiet moment, I just stay and I meditate. Then keep my head in one because a lot of things
Right.
run through my head at the same time. So meditating helps, traveling helps. So those are the top of the
Very
list at
cool.
the moment. Yeah.
I that's fantastic. I think there's so many benefits to meditation. When you travel too, you learn so much about different people, different cultures. It's also really fun. I kind of want to
Yeah,
segue into
sorry,
the
sorry to cut you off. Recent, I did
yeah.
a funny, interesting trip to from Nigeria. We drove to
Hmm.
Ivory Coast to watch the
Wow.
AFCON final. So that's like driving through four different countries. So we drove through
Wow.
Benin Republic, Togo, Ghana, then Ivory Coast.
Hmm.
Yeah, and we did the same
Wow.
thing when coming back again. While still on that trip, I was still working. I mean, I was with my driver, with my
Right.
laptop, still doing what I meant to do.
Is
Uh, so yeah.
is there like is there Starlink available? I'm assuming there's Starlink available that you have, or like how do you have connection and service to travel when you're commuting?
So what I used one of the local line, which is MTN. So but then since
Mm.
the trip was within West Africa, so they had operations in those neighboring countries. But
Wow.
the only disadvantage was I had to roam in those countries. So
Hmm.
what I was spending 1,000 for, yeah, I was spending like 50,000,
Right, right.
100,000 for in those other
Jeez.
places. They were very expensive, but I mean, money wasn't the
Yeah.
problem. So I just had to like,
It's worth it
so
when
that
you're continuing your business. But yeah, I
yeah,
just
that
want to segue and talk a little bit more. about West Africa, about Nigeria, in the economy. And I've read a couple articles that there's hyper growth happening in Nigeria right now as far as infrastructure, literacy, and also population. In like the next 40, 50 years, Nigeria is going to be the third most populated country in the world, right?
Yeah.
And it's already, I think, the most populated country in Africa, in all of the continent of Africa. I think it's like Nigeria and I think Egypt's up there. But what are your thoughts on like the future of Nigeria? Where do you think the trajectory is going?
Okay, so for Nigeria to start with, then I'll mention a couple of other African countries because I've been touring African countries in a bit to expand our
Hmm.
operations. So I've been carrying out rigorous research on those countries also. So, but for Nigeria, I can see a very promising upward trend, right?
Hmm.
In the state of economy, right? We've seen the likes of funding coming into Nigeria,
Hmm.
Egypt, right? Then a little bit of Morocco, right? Then Kenya also. We've seen Nigeria house the top big companies in the world that are looking to enter
Hmm.
Africa. One of the major reasons is the fact that we boast of about over 240 million population. That's a very huge market, right, at the moment
Hmm.
for companies to come and take advantage of. And now the growth is still actually increasing because for Nigeria, I still see Nigeria as a country that we've not even started tapping into the resources or into the opportunities that we have. We are still scratching the surface. Even though we're scratching the surface, we're doing well. Because I mean, one of the beautiful things that I've seen that we are doing in Nigeria over even in the West, or let me say US, is the fact that we've been able to solve bank transaction issues. Like you can transfer money from a person to
Hmm.
another person. In instantly they will get the money. There is the regulation which is NIBS that was set up to actually manage those expectations. Right. What's the benefit of this in the country at large? It helps business grow faster. So you can do your settlements
Wow.
on time, right? And I'm not sure this
Hmm.
is big in other part of the world, right? So,
Hmm.
in terms of growth for Nigeria, not only have we seen funding into the Nigerian market, we've also seen beautiful innovations coming up from the Nigerian market. Then, moving just from Nigeria to other African countries is the same thing. Using Rwanda, for example, so there is this new startup called
Hmm.
Zipline. Yeah, Zipline, if I'm not mistaken. They are valued at approximately 1.4 billion. Yeah. So
Wow.
what did they do? What did the founder do? He was trying to get regulations, I mean licenses and what have you, in the US, but it was a lot of work for him. He couldn't get it done. So what he did was he came to Rwanda, right? Then he spoke with the government. They welcomed him, right, and set him up. So what does the business do? The business operates as a drone, and it uses drone to like shipping medical facility like blood to remote areas, to rural
Mm.
areas where you cannot easily get there. So they use Rwanda as that.
Very
Rwanda
cool.
just have, I'm not certain of the population, but I think it's less than 50 million population, maybe less than
Hmm.
30 million population in the whole of Rwanda. So right, so that means they have a very little
Hmm.
population, but they have a very healthy ecosystem that can nourish startups to grow. This is not just Rwanda; it's cost across even Nigeria and other
Hmm.
African countries, right? So the
I also
zipline
assume
guy,
like Botswana too.
yeah, Botswana
Hmm.
too. Yeah, Namibia and the legs. So,
Hmm.
in a space of I can't remember the number. I think 3 years or so, right, or less.
Hmm.
Started the operation in Rwanda. He was able to like. Then what he did was he went back to the US, flew in all the regulators from there, people that were giving him tough time to
Wow.
Rwanda to say, "Come and see,
Hmm.
I've done this. It's working." And all of a sudden, boom!
Hmm.
I'm talking of a $1.4 billion valuation out of the blues,
Wow.
looking
Yeah.
at expanding it to other African countries. So we are seeing more of this, not just in Rwanda, right? In Nigeria and in other African countries. So this shows that we are doing it right, yeah, even though there are a lot of limiting factors. And that's what actually even makes it better. The fact that there are limiting factors and we are smart in Africa and Nigeria at large. We are identifying these limiting factors
Hmm.
as a problem and we are tackling it by creating awesome solutions to solve those problems. That's why we've seen the likes of Flutterwave that are unicorn. We saw the likes of Paystack, my friend Shola, that is the CEO of
Hmm.
Paystack, right? What they just wanted to do was to build the Stripe for Africa, and we've seen them acquired Paystack, that Stripe. They acquired Paystack with over $200 million. That's one of the biggest estimates that we've seen so far, and we are seeing multiple and multiple of this. So, say in the next, I won't even say 40 years, in the next 10 years, 15 years, the kind of unicorn startups that will be birthed, not just in Nigeria but in Africa, it's something that the world is going to reckon with. Because one thing, the market is there, the population is there, the
Hmm.
consumption rate is there. I mean, in Africa, we are
Hmm.
talking of over 3 billion, if not, yeah, we're talking of over 3 billion population, if I'm not mistaken, in Africa, right? And we have 7 billion in
Hmm.
the world at large. So this shows that there is actually the audience, the market for consumption of whatever problem or whatever
Hmm.
solution anyone is creating in Nigeria and in Africa at large.
And it seems like, at least like in Nigeria and potentially other countries in Africa, they adopt technology a lot faster than
Yeah,
like the United States, for example. It seems like people in the US are like, "What? I like want to use cash and I don't want to, pay everything with, you know,
yeah.
online and digital." And a lot of people are afraid of like, I don't know. In the
Hmm.
US, there's a weird dichotomy with technology, but it seems like in Africa, people can
Yeah,
start picking up their smartphone and start understanding the data and really leveraging the information
yeah.
that they get and understand. Why do you think that is?
Yeah. So it's just that we are an innovative people, right? That's one of the.
Hmm.
I don't mean that
Seems
in an
more
offensive way,
more
though.
progressive too.
Yes.
Like it seems
So
like very
yeah,
progressive.
yeah, we're very progressive actually. I think that's the major attribute to why it's we are seeing a lot of
Hmm.
that in Africa at the moment, especially Nigeria. Because if we are just to go back memory lane, 10, 15, 20 years, when GSM, that's the mobile phone, started penetrating into Nigeria, right? It's actually
Hmm.
remarkable to see the number of both the unbanked, the lower class, middle class, upper class, everybody now have a digital device and they are operating it very
Hmm.
well. I mean, that adoption was a very mind blowing one, and this is what
Hmm.
actually also translates into, I mean, awesome products that we are seeing, fintech products that
Hmm.
people are building, riding on those adoptions from the mobile devices. So yeah, I think we are forward thinking and we are progressive in Nigeria.
Hmm. Oh, and that's another thing that I noticed when I was at University of Cape Town. The hardest working folks that I've ever met were Nigerians. Well, also the South Africans were really hardworking, but the Nigerians, I remember one of my really good friends was an engineer, and he would be sleeping in the classroom because he was there in like the or in the lab all day, just doing stuff in the lab, and would sleep there, and they'd set up little beds. And I've been to, universities in the States. I've never seen the type of work ethic that I've seen in Africa, which is really impressive. So it makes sense that it's the kind of a booming economy. But I do want to segue into currently what you're building, Zeeh Africa. I know it's the Credit Karma of Africa. I looked at
Yeah.
your website. You have a beautiful website. You have a lot of presence online.
Uh,
So yeah, just explain how did that come into fruition, and what you're currently working on now.
okay. So I'll just start from Dax Links because that's the starting story of how Zeeh Africa was birthed. Um, so we built our portfolio to over, I think at that point it was around $1.5 million in terms of
Wow.
our portfolio, right? That we offer credit facilities to Nigerians for a start back then. So one of the major problem that we were facing, not just us, other loan companies, even traditional banks and the likes, what they were all facing was lack of access to financial data. It was a very,
Hmm.
very major issue. And what does this result into? It results into high non-performing loan. And once we're having an economy that is having a high NPL ratio, right? There
Hmm.
won't be a lot of funds in circulations for the actual businesses that need the credit facility to do what they need to do. So that was what made me okay step down from the role as the CEO to just be the board manager at Zeeh Africa. Sorry, at Daxlinks, right? To start
Hmm.
Zeeh Africa. So basically, what do we do at Zeeh Africa? We started off as an open banking API solution provider. What we did is we connected all the banks, over 20 banks in Nigeria, together into our infrastructure, such that any financial institution, let's say a credit company, wants to give credit to an individual. So you don't need to start building a credit history of that user from scratch.
Hmm.
So we can leverage the data the user have across all the banks. So that's what we started from. So we're aggregating data, both KYC data, account statement, transaction history, right? Then we're selling. So our business model was by selling it by API call, right? So we started off from that. Then we did not just stop there. Then we introduced what's it called, the AI algorithm, which we call Insight. So what does AI do? It analyzes those statements and make good sense of those data for the credit company or for the banks, for the
Hmm.
MFIs, right? So that you can see this person's credit score on the go. You can know this person, is he credit worthy? Does he have can I avail him this amount he's requesting for? And does he have the capacity to pay back? So we consider over 82 data points, ranging from what's the person's addiction to gambling, is the person a salary earner, what does the person
Hmm.
spend the most, where does he live. So we have over 82 data points from different, both
Wow.
vertical and horizontal points that we pick. So what does it spend
Wow.
on the most? I mean, we just gathered everything to make a good sense of what an individual person can be like in terms of his financial standing. So that was where the insights came into place. Then we now introduce the another feature, which is one of the, I think we're just two or three in Nigeria that is doing it at the
Hmm.
moment. So we dived into payment, right? So what that does is we can debit. So I mean, it's like I said, I see problem and I solve problem. So one of the
Right.
problems that was also peculiar to the ecosystem was the fact that you take loan from this company, right? You don't pay
Hmm.
back this company, yet you have money in other companies, in other banks. Let me use banks as
Hmm.
the case study. So you are spoiling business for the other banks. For the bank you took the loan from, whereas you have the money to pay back and you don't want to pay back. So we built what we call the direct debit system that can debit any of your accounts, any account that you have. So we leverage BVN, which
Hmm.
is similar to like SSN, Social Security Number in the US, right? So we use BVN, and that BVN have access to all their banks. So we're able to debit all their banks. So it's a very innovative solution that is currently out in the market as we speak right now. So
Wow.
that's what we evolved into at Zeeh Africa. Then where's the end goal of everything is to be the CreditKarma, like I said, for
Hmm.
Africa. So so far we've been operating as B2B. So the CreditKarma part
Hmm.
now is we building the mobile app that is going to operate as B2C. That's to direct
Wow.
customers now. So they download the app. So on that app, you have access to all your banks together into one place.
Hmm.
All your investments, all your savings, all your insurance, all your pension. We have
Wow.
everything together into one app. So you as a person, you don't need to like start disturb yourself of downloading different app, thinking of how you
Hmm.
manage all your finances across different platforms. So just with our user app, right, you can do all
Hmm.
that, and not just stopping at that. We give you personalized offers. So based on your strengths, we would recommend the kind of credit facility you should take through
Hmm.
any of our
Hmm.
partners. So we don't want you to go and take loan that you cannot pay back or that will become a burden
Hmm.
to you. So since we already understand you, we understand your financial standings, we will give you recommended offers that, oh, take this investment, take this at your time, like that will be easy to you. Then as you grow also, you'll be able to take in higher opportunities or higher offers that we have. So basically, that's what Zeeh Africa is currently offering at the moment, and that's basically what we're working on at Zeeh Africa.
Wow. Very cool. I don't even think we have something like that available in the States, which is super comprehensive. I love how it's all in one app that you can see all your finances and it
Yeah.
can give you recommendations. You can also, to my understanding, you can invest within your app as well. You can invest in
Yes.
in certain companies and things like that too. So it's pretty much a whole
Yeah.
suite. of
Yes, that's
finance,
correct.
financial tools.
Yeah.
Wow, very cool. What so and it looks like you just started that back in because I know that you started Dax Links back in 2013. It looks like or 2012, and then
Yeah.
it kind of you became the board member, so you put that on the side, and then you started Zeeh Africa and back in
Mhm.
2022. So it's been about 2, 3 years, and it
Yeah.
seems like
Very,
you guys have grown quite a lot. Like your website's impressive.
okay.
Your online presence is really amazing. I love
Oh,
what you're doing. Um,
thank
I just have one more question for you, David.
you.
Um,
Okay.
for those that are getting into entrepreneurship,
Okay.
what would you recommend for those starting out becoming an entrepreneur?
Okay. So for those starting out to become entrepreneur, there are two spheres to it, right? There are the people that they already know what they want to do, and there are the people that they know that okay, they want to do entrepreneurship, but they don't know what field they need to major in, like what field they want to do. Because I was also in that
Hmm.
shoe myself, right? So I mean, I've gotten a lot of questions from people that I mentor, right? A lot of people fall into this category of we want to do business, we don't know what to do, we don't even know where to start, we don't even know which one to do. So the advice I give them, and I've seen work over time, is the fact that start with whatever your hands can, whatever you can lay your hands on, right? Just get started. If it's into e-commerce, get started. If while you're doing e-commerce, if you see probably logistic, also do it. Trust me,
Hmm.
it works, right? So, but this the catch, right? When you're starting, you could start if you don't know the major thing you want to do. That's the clause.
Hmm.
So you could start with everything that you can get available that you can do at the moment, right? But just do it on a shallow level. So while you are doing it, be very understand yourself and do a lot of research to find out which one do you feel you have the biggest picture, right? One, and that you know that okay, you can grow in it, and it will be something that you can do. Like I mean, you need to think of your exit plan. Like okay, how big can you take it to, and are you comfortable doing this? So from there, once you can now pick out that one, then you now go deeper. So it's a philosophy I do. So you start on an horizontal level. So on a shallow level, you get it done, you get things done to keep yourself floating and to like learn while you are learning, you are building, you are working. You get a mentor. It's very important. So one of the I think it took me a while before I was able to understand the role of a mentor. I learned a lot of
Hmm.
things myself. On the feed. So I
Right.
made a lot of mistake, which I don't regret because it's beautiful. I enjoyed the process, right? So, but then what mentorship does is the fact that they help you prevent mistakes that you
Hmm.
are going to go through. So they shoot you ahead faster than what you expected, like faster than the status quo of things. So anybody going through into entrepreneurship, get a mentor, one, and also get a role model. So the role model, the difference between mentor and role model is the role model is not someone you can access, right? It's someone
Hmm.
that maybe like the Elon Musk, the Bill Gates, someone that you can
Right. Right.
see, oh, I want to be like this person, I'm following this person, this is the big person that I want to see. Then you now need a mentor that will now guide you through the little steps that you are taking. So that's the
Hmm.
difference because people get to ask what the difference between role model and mentor. So those are just the two
Hmm.
different models. So you get those two of them, right? Then you start on a shallow level, pick whatever you can get doing. That's, I mean, for a Nigeria and African market, right? Do whatever you can do. Then while you are doing that, start looking out for which of them do you want to go deeper into. So once you pick out the one that you want to go deeper into, you pause or you find a way to automate those other one and go deeper into the real one that you want to do, and you stay committed to it even though it's looking good or it's not good looking bad looking good, you go deeper into
Hmm.
it. Then one other thing that we need to understand, right, is to understand what time are you meant to pivot. I
Hmm.
mean, we've seen Alibaba, right? Is it Amazon?
Hmm.
It did not start as an e-commerce platform, right? That
Right.
is, yes, sorry, Amazon, right? Even Facebook also, it did not start as what it is right now. So we've seen a lot
Right.
of, even Netflix also, it was not what they are doing now. They started with
Hmm.
everybody at one point in time, they knew when to pivot. So that's another
Hmm.
thing every entrepreneur should know. somewhere in the back of their mind. So in as much as they are grinding, they are making it work, they are putting in the effort, they should also look out for what's that little switch, what's that little pivot movement I
Hmm.
need to do. That will just once you just do it, boom. Because we did it also in Zeeh Africa, and it was a big leap for us. Right now,
Hmm.
we just all we just needed to do was we just play with data, right? Then the little
Hmm.
pivot we needed to do was introduce AI into it, and now we are working with the biggest of the banks in Nigeria, right?
Wow.
I mean, yeah, I can just
Right.
say the biggest of the banks in Nigeria at the moment, using our infrastructure. So every founders need to like have that in their mind. What's the little pivot you need to do to boost your products? So yeah, those are the little few cents I have for entrepreneurs.
That's amazing, David. I really appreciate it. I appreciate your time today. It was a fantastic conversation. I definitely want to have you on again and talk to you more about the landscape in Nigeria, more about your business, just a lot of different things I want to talk to you more deeper in. But really appreciate your time today, David, getting to know you more, getting to know your upbringing and your background. It's amazing where you started and now where you're at today. And I mean, I'm more aspire to be to more like you too, just because it's like I've never met someone that's that hardworking. So I really appreciate it, David. Thank you so much for
So
your
thank
time
you
and
very
thank you
much.
for being
Thank you
on.
very much. I really appreciate it. It's an honor also to be here. I mean, I love what's been done over at Builder. It's a beautiful concept, and
I appreciate
I'm looking forward to like being more active and seeing how we can take it to the ends of the world. Because yeah, it's impact driven, and that's one of the major reasons why I also signed up to be part of it, and I really love it. Awesome stuff. Thank you very
absolutely,
much.
David. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate the kind words. Thank you so
All
much.
right.